Good afternoon and welcome to our midday briefing. And guess what? I have no announcements today for you, so we can go straight to your questions. Anna.
Hi, good morning. Ana Martins of the Portuguese news agency Lusa. I still have questions regarding the Storm Kristin in Portugal. I wonder if Portugal already requested the activation of the civil protection mechanism, first question. And the second one, because there was this discussion in Portugal, maybe it's for Balas, the government has said that is in contact with the Commission to maybe extend or to find other ways to execute the RRF in the affected areas. Is this possible? Is it possible also an extension of RRF beyond August 2026? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anna. So I can confirm that so far Portugal has not activated the civil protection mechanism. And on your other questions, it will be Maciej giving us an update on these.
Yes, thank you, Paula. Good afternoon. Thank you for your question. So Portugal has not requested yet the amendment of the recovery and resilience recovery plan. It can still do it, but all revised milestones and targets would have to be implemented by the deadline, which is August 2026. So as I said, Portugal has an possibility to amend the recovery plan. It has not been requested yet, but in any case, all milestones and targets have to be implemented by the end of August this year.
And this being said, even more appropriate in this case is the Solidarity Fund, which Maciej also had the occasion to put forward last week. But you may just recall here, Maciej, what are the conditions actually for the use and the request of the Solidarity Fund in such cases?
So as I said on Friday, there are two other instruments that can be used to address damages that affected Portugal. First of all, it's the European Union Solidarity Fund that can be requested by Portugal. Portugal has 12 weeks to submit their application. They have to first assess the damages, the value of the damages, and based on that, they send an application to the Commission. We make our assessment and propose a payment to be made to the budgetary authority, and the Council and the Parliament, they take a decision. So this is the first instrument. And the other one is the cohesion policy funds, which can be reprogrammed by Portugal in order to address the damages caused by the storm.
And our understanding is that the assessment of the damage is actually still ongoing, and unfortunately there are further bad weather is foreseen in the coming days, so this means that there could still be further damage. We really hope not. Anna, you have a follow-up.
So this request from Portugal regarding the RRF, how it will work in practice? So they will still need to execute everything until August 2026, but how can this benefit the affected areas, if you can be more precise? Thanks.
As said, Anna, ideally the funds that would apply in such a situation are the Solidarity Fund and the cohesion funds as set out by Maciej.
If I can add, when it comes to the Recovery and Resilience Facility, we would have to look at it once the amendments are proposed. So I cannot at this stage preempt what could be done with the Recovery and Resilience Facility. We would need to look at the amendments proposed by Portugal, and then we would know more.
Other questions still to Maciej? Let me see if there are any questions to Maciej. Sam, I see you kept your hand up. Is it for Maciej? Sam McNeill?
No, it's not for Maciej.
Okay, then I'll come back to you. Then we have a question there. Wait, Maciej.
Gianluca Martucci, Public Policy, Italian News Agency. My question is about the RRF funds for EDIP, since it's a possibility that member states that can transfer money from the RFF to EDIP. How much has been transferred so far, and how many member states redirected funds from the RRF to EDIP? Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. I have to double check the figure and the member states, and we'll come back to you after the midday.
Good. Other questions to Maciej? No. Other topics? Jennifer.
Thanks for the floor. Jennifer Rankin at The Guardian. So I would like to ask about defence. The British Prime Minister has signalled he would like the EU and the UK to look again at SAFE. Can I get the Commission's response on that? Do you see any moments this week during the various meetings that are taking place when the two sides could start to talk again about defence? And what are the possibilities for the UK to be involved in SAFE? And then a second question, which might not be quite on Thomas's area, but when it comes to the 90 billion loan for Ukraine, there is a proposal that the UK should be considered as European, like an European Union member state, or like Ukraine. What do you think of that idea?
Thank you. Hi, Jennifer. So maybe on the first question first, and SAFE, I mean, we have seen the comments. We're, of course, aware of the comments. Let's take it step by step. First, negotiations with the UK to be associated to the current SAFE plan ended last year. We all know how they ended. Now, since then, the Commission has advanced on its side with the work under SAFE, and we're currently assessing the remaining 3 SAFE plans, so the one of France, Hungary, and Czechia. And we're not prejudging at this stage any potential SAFE 2. Now, on the part that relates to the loan to Ukraine, I mean, it's half-half. Maybe Balázs will want to come in at some point also to complement. I mean, now we're also obviously checking on how third countries outside the EU may potentially join in and contribute to the loan, but discussions are ongoing here also within the Council, I think. So I will really not prejudge this or any potential future steps from this podium today.
Good. Since we have Thomas on the floor, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Same topic, almost certainly different spokesperson. Apologies for the confusion. It's about the single market and the UK, so it's still Keir Starmer, but I'm not sure that it's Thomas. So perhaps you want to come back to me.
We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you. Any questions still for Thomas? Yes, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Verena Sophie Meyer, Austrian broadcaster ORF. It's a question on digital policy and social media bans in different member states. And if I may, I will switch to German for that question.
I'm afraid it's not yet open to German, even if we do understand the two of us on the podium. And would we have, no, I don't think we have interpretation.
Then I will stay with English. So after France and Denmark, also Austria wants to push forward with the social media ban for minors. Is this possible? Can Austria take big platforms and regulate big platforms in a own push, if that is actually the task for the EU Commission? And second question, Austria, France, Denmark, the Council, the Parliament, everyone was pushing for an EU-wide approach on this matter. Does the Commission answer to that? Thank you.
Thank you. Let me try to respond to both questions in one reply. So, I mean, the situation in Austria doesn't look better than the situation elsewhere. I mean, we discussed France last week. When you think of Austria, more than 70% of 15-year-old Austrians spend more than 2 hours per day on social media platform. So this is quite massive. If you take a group of young Austrians between 15 and 17, more than half of them have already experienced online sexual harassment. So of course, here again, like it was with France, we see, of course, the need, and we follow the debate very closely. Now, in terms of what is possible and what is not possible, we were very clear last week. Can Austria set a minimum age for its citizens? Yes, it can. It can set it for its own citizens, like France can set it for its own citizens. Now, can Austria put additional obligations on very large online platforms, this is not possible because this is already regulated under Article 28 of the DSA that says that all online platforms have to guarantee a high level of security, safety and privacy for citizens and kids, and age verification tools are the appropriate means to do that if there is a national minimum legal age. So setting a limit for its citizens, yes. Setting additional obligations for online platforms, no, because this is already done under the DSA. Now, to your second question, what are we doing at EU-wide level? I mean, of course, we're discussing, and this is the main point I would like you to keep in mind from this, we're working closely hand in hand with our member states. The Commission is currently leaving all doors open. We're still, putting in place this panel of experts that will advise us, because if there is a need from a European point of view to go a step further, then why would we close this door? So no, the Commission is leaving all doors open at this stage.
Thank you. Any other question to Thomas? Is it Thomas? Yes? Yes? Yes.
Hello, Blaž Mohorčić with the Slovenian press agency. When are you planning to name this panel of experts? Thank you.
So work is ongoing. This needs to be an inclusive approach, as the President had also mentioned. When we're speaking about experts, it has to be an inclusive approach, taking into consideration the different areas that we want to cover. Potentially from teachers, from parents, to lawyers, to social media experts. So work is ongoing, but I don't have a specific timeline at this stage.
Thank you, Thomas. Other questions to Thomas? No. We move on. David.
I think this might be a question for Anna Kaiser. It's about the infringements last Thursday. So I see that there were infringements for non-withdrawal from the ECT, the Energy Charter Treaty, for 16 member states. I was just looking for a bit of background on that. Why? Are there obligations that those member states might have had to fulfill before withdrawing that have held them back? Because 16 out of 27, or 26 if you discard Hungary, that's quite a lot of in terms of non-compliance. So if you could give a bit of background there, that would be great. Thanks.
I do not really have background to give on infringement cases that we have opened. So we ourselves, the European Union, we withdrew as the European Union from the Charter Treaty already in 24, and we then explained the reasons why we did this, and our withdrawal took effect in October 25. So, and the reasons also for the rest of the audience were basically or simply that the Energy Charter Treaty was not compatible with our climate and energy goals under the European Green Deal and the Paris Agreement. So now the focus is on the member states not having the competence to stay in the Energy Charter Treaty, and this concerns the 16 member states. I do not have the legal argumentation of each of the member states, nor do I have access to any of the correspondence that has taken place. I cannot make any comment of what the various reasons of the member states might or might not be, but it is very clear that the Energy Charter Treaty concerns exclusive competencies of the European Commission and the European Union, and therefore the decision was taken that the EU will withdraw, and now the follow-up is now the infringement cases that we opened. I do not have a further comment to make on behalf of any of the member states.
Yes, David.
So I understand that you can't make a comment on the reasons for the member states, but just on the procedure, so what you can say in terms of, this is not a directive, it's not something that needs to be interpreted by the Commission, where you're making an infringement procedure and looking at their laws, where there could be possibly a change. It seems like there's something very, very simple here to do. It's to leave the ECT. And then taking that a bit further in terms of the procedure, so it's 2 months that you wait, or is it longer before? Because this is just a formal notice, right? There's no legal proceedings. But what's the next stage? Is it automatic, or is there any way that member states can come back and explain things to you?
Obviously, we have open lines to all our member states, and we have exchanges on this. But as was explained on the process, as was explained in the press release that we published on Friday, was that member states now have 2 months to get back to us to respond to the letter of the formal notice. As you correctly pointed out, this is the stage where we're now. And then if we haven't received a satisfactory response in those 2 months, we may then decide to issue a reasoned opinion. But that is the process that is a regular infringement process that we have with our member states now. And then, of course, if something happens in the meanwhile, then of course everything will be reassessed per member state. But for the time being, this is where we are.
Thank you. Other questions to Anna-Kaisa? I think I had one online. Yes, I'll come to you, but since I just mentioned online, Bogdan Izopescu.
Yes, thank you. Bogdan Izopescu, Radio Romania. This morning, the Prime Minister of Norway said that EU should reconsider the intention on a moratorium against importing energy from the Arctic. He also said that all the LNG that EU is receiving from Norway comes from the Arctic. Could you tell me what is the status of the discussion? Maybe there is a shift from green to security, and where this discussion is taking place at the moment. Thank you.
We have several avenues to have a discussion with Norway. One of them is the EU-Norway Energy Dialogue. That is a very active, regular forum to have these discussions. If I understand correctly, we do have a presence from the European Union. The High Representative, is she in Norway today? Yeah, exactly. So there are discussions, not necessarily on this, but generally with Norway, and then obviously now in the last days and weeks, energy has been very much a topic. As regards the moratorium on Arctic, our position has not changed on that, Norway continues, obviously, as a third country, very closely tied to us on energy policy, continues to be an important partner for us, and we have a very active, as I mentioned, a very active regular dialogue on energy with Norway. But I cannot preempt now, of course, any of the discussions that might be held in Norway today. There was a North Sea summit last week in Hamburg, where again energy issues related to the region were discussed. And we do recognize the Arctic as a region of exceptional environmental sensitivity as well as strategic importance. And I do not have at this point in time anything to add to that, including the remarks made by the Minister.
And I see Philip may have a related question. Philip, go ahead.
Thank you, Paula. Philip Dosselvin with the Norwegian media Energi og Klima. As Störe points out, all the LNG that is imported to the EU from Norway comes from the Arctic region at the production facility in Hammerfest or Melkøya. And this is happening still while the EU's current Arctic strategy calls for a moratorium on hydrocarbons in the Arctic. So I'm wondering, in what way has this call for a moratorium been followed up since it was put out, as there are still continuing imports? Thank you.
It is correct that there are still continuing imports. Norway overall in gas was our biggest supplier last year. We have our policies in place with Norway. both in terms of internal energy market as well as the moratorium that you mentioned, which is also part of a wider policy that we have in Arctic. And as I said, how things are being followed up. I mean, we have a continuous dialogue. Our commissioner meets with his counterpart, and before him also previous commissioner, her counterpart. So it is a very organic, regular, active relationship that we have, and each year there's a high-level dialogue on energy issues with the Commission and Norway, and the intention is to continue this. And obviously, as the issues on Arctic have been discussed in a broader context lately, obviously it's not excluded that these will also be touched upon at political level, and then of course on top of the political level, our experts obviously continue to be in touch as well. The region itself, as well as the North Sea region, very important, not just for gas and LNG, but also for renewables. And one of the showcases, obviously, was the North Sea Summit in Hamburg last week, where there were big investment pledges made to increase wind power.
Thank you. Other questions to Anna-Kaisa? Go ahead.
Tetiana Vysotska, European Pravda, Ukraine. I've got two questions, both about gas. One is on the Repower EU regulation, which is published, I expect that it is published today in the official, journal. What is the next steps? What is the nearest timetable for this regulation? And as Slovakia and Hungary still think that the regulation was adopted through, as they say, legal fraud, and they want to go to the court, to the European Court of Justice, what the European Commission is doing to prevent that court hearings? Are you planning some meetings? What is the state of play for now? And the second question is about American gas, because recently Commissioner Ribera, she said that Europe is becoming over-dependent on American natural gas imports. How can you comment that statement? Thank you.
Okay, so let's cover all of the gas today. First, on the Repower regulation that is indeed published in the official journal today. So basically that means that as from tomorrow it starts to apply. And there's a very clear timeline, and I invite everybody to also check our DG Ener website. They have put a timeline up there as well. So basically there are the dates for banning the short-term LNG contracts, short-term pipeline gas contracts, as well as long-term contracts, meaning imports from Russia, and the dates are all there. And it's basically 6 weeks after the regulation enters into force, the new short-term and long-term contracts will be prohibited. But all these timelines with the different dates are available online. You mentioned the Slovakian and Hungarian legal challenge that they have flagged. Again, a member state can bring direct action against an EU institution, such as the European Parliament or the Council, to challenge an act that it considers unlawful. This has happened before. This would not be the first time. They are allowed to bring an action for annulment, seeking the annulment of a measure, for instance, a regulation adopted by the institutions of the European Union. This legal procedure before the Court of Justice of the European Union guarantees the conformity of EU legislative acts, regulatory acts and individual acts with the superior rules of the EU legal order. And as privileged applicants, member states can do it without proving any interest on their side and simply in the interest of legality. And their right to bring an action for annulment does not depend on their stance during the legislative proceedings. This means that a member state could have voted in favour of an act in the Council, but then later questions its legality before the Court of Justice. This is the process. This is not specifically applicable to this case. I understand that these are, for the time being, these are statements. But we will then, of course, defend our proposal there. Then, US. I want to make very clear, without taking any position or commenting comments made by either college members or anyone else in the press on the dependencies of EU buying LNG from the United States. We have a well-developed security of supply framework in place. It is based on diversification of suppliers. It is based on integrated and interconnected EU energy market and the deployment of homegrown clean energy. We monitor very, very closely the supply, the global markets and demand to avoid any over-reliance on any one supplier. And the current figures that we have available to us do not point to any concerns regarding this. Importing more energy supplies from the United States is part of our strategy to phase out energy imports from Russia. The legislation literally enters into force tomorrow. We do this while we diversify energy sources and we spread the risks. By doing this, we spread the risks globally. So it's one of our tools that we use to help mitigate supply risks. And we have built a very, very close energy relationship with the United States. Since 2022, when Russia started the war in Ukraine, the US has become an important source of gas imports into the European Union. And there's one thing that I want to make very clear when the dependencies, replacing one dependency with another, are being discussed. EU imports from US, the US LNG, cannot be compared to the pre-war dependency we had with Russia. First point is that before the war started, Russia supplied around 45% of our gas. This was done via dedicated pipelines that were controlled and belonged to a single state-owned company that was subject to government control. Second point, Russia has frequently and repeatedly weaponized energy supplies over the past decades. Third point, unlike pipeline, LNG is a global and liquid market. It offers more diversification options for the European Union. And the final point is that replacement of the lost volumes of the Russian pipeline gas was a challenge. Why? Because we had to rely on limited pipeline import corridors. These are, per definition, physical infrastructure that we cannot just, our companies, even if they wanted to, they couldn't go that, I don't want to buy from Russia anymore, but where am I going to get this pipeline gas from? Because this is the actual pipeline coming from point A to point B. With LNG, per definition, the market is very liquid, and they are global. The market is global, and it's very, very flexible. So this makes our reliance on LNG much more manageable compared to our reliance on pipeline imports. So these aspects are very, very important to keep in mind when we have these discussions that we are replacing a dependency with another. Our imports from the US, the LNG that we buy from the US, cannot be compared with the situation we were in before 2022.
Thank you, Anna-Kaisa. I love that contextualization of how to approach these two sources of gas. Thank you. Any other questions for Anna-Kaisa? Yes.
Yes, Angela Mauro of Post Italy. It's basically a follow-up. So you're basically denying what Commissioner Jorgensen said. Listening to you, it sounded like just as if that comment came from somebody outside the Commission, not a commissioner, but he was very clear. Did the President ask for clarification? Did she have any confrontation or discussion or contact with him? Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. Allow me to disagree. There's no denial. There is, as I said earlier, a contextualization, which I think is very useful in this context, to explain that while we are diversifying, and indeed we are importing now more from the US than we used to, we are also explaining how different these two origins of gas are. And Anna Kaiser put it very well, so really elaborating on what the Commissioner has said. Other questions to Anna Kaiser? No. Then we can move on. And before I forget, let me come to you and your question on the single market.
Thank you very much. Alex Cadier for TVP World. The British Prime Minister says he wants to go further in integrating with the European single market, but only in areas of UK national interest. Is the Commission open to that further integration? Is the Commission open to a further integration, but only for areas that are in the national interests of the UK? Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. Listen, our single market is really one of the treasures of the EU, or if I were to put it in a British context, it's really the jewel of the crown, right? So we very much appreciate that these advantages of the single market are recognized by Prime Minister Starmer. Now, we will be having a summit with the UK soon. I understand there's not a final date yet agreed, but this will be the occasion to discuss with the UK what exactly they have in mind and how they propose to go about it. So that's all we can say for the moment. Yes.
Hi, Milana Golovanyi, Ukrainian Media Liga.net. Actually, I have a question to you and probably to Anita as well. It's regarding Epstein files, which was released last Friday. The first question, the documents show that Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of meetings with the former EU Commissioner Peter Mandelson. In this regard, I have a question. Why were these meetings not in the transparency register? And the second question regarding Epstein files to Ukraine, files also show that Epstein used his bubble, Brussels bubble, to get some information about Ukraine in 2019 before inauguration of President Zelensky. Does Commission has any information about leaks to Epstein about Ukraine? And the question actually general, what's Commission is going to do in such cases when someone intervenes? Thanks.
You see, and I'm glad I can refer this question to Balázs.
Good afternoon.
This is how teamwork works.
You mentioned an interesting point here. So, first of all, let's recall that Mr. Mandelson was at the Commission between 2004 and 2008. So that's quite a long while ago. Now, the Transparency Register, it is something that I've just taken over as a file. So we would have to look at what were the rules at that time as to, what had to be declared in the Transparency Register, because these rules have changed over time and they have been tightened. So with your permission, I would have to look into that dimension. On the second point, I'm not sure if you have anything to add.
Listen, we know as much as you do, if at all, in terms of the amounts of information that is being released. We understand, we read reports in the press, these are millions of pages, so we're also still discovering, as you are, what is being disclosed here. So for the moment, we have nothing else to add. Still to Balázs? Yep. Yes. No.
Well, to Balázs or you, I don't know. But are you proactively searching the Epstein files to check if any former or acting EU official or any EU representative, maybe up to the highest level, is mentioned in the files? Are you checking this? I mean, since also, what's his first name? Miroslav Lajčák was prominently mentioned in the files. He stepped down. He had also some EU roles. So, yes, what are you doing?
Let me put it this way. So I think we've seen a significant number of allegations and leaks, revelations over the past month in this area. What is clear is that we have rules in place. For commissioners, we have the Code of Conduct, notably. For staff members, we have the staff regulations. On this basis, whenever we think that there's a potential breach of the applicable provisions, we can take action as a matter of general practice, and when that is the right thing to do, then we don't shy away from doing exactly that.
Thank you. Il y a une question de suivi.
Okay, I will ask my question more concrete. Do you have some kind of an Epstein task force in place who is actively searching the database?
We don't have a dedicated task force in place to this effect.
And another follow-up, and that would be it.
Can you exclude that any high-ranking EU officials are mentioned in the Epstein files?
Look, I think mentioning is one thing, but whether this mention requires a follow-up action from the Commission is something else. I'm not excluding anything. I think, as I said, this is a subject matter where revelations keep coming, and as I said, if we take action, if we need to take action, we have a legal basis to do so, and we will, as a matter of general practice, we will never shy away from taking action.
Any questions still to Balázs? Yes, Catherine.
Sorry, staying with the Epstein files, I'm sorry, Balázs, but there was an exchange between Steve Bannon and Epstein's, and he said, I am now an advisor to Front, presumably Front National, Savini, League, AFD, Swiss People's, Orban, Land and Freedom, Farage, and in the next European Parliament elections, we can win 200 seats and block any legislation, crypto legislation, or anything else we want. Now, I'm wondering, given that the Commission has been criticised for forming links with the ECR and PFE on legislation for in a number of fields now, are you concerned that they are in fact being influenced by somebody outside the EU with another agenda? Thank you.
Now this is I would say, a very speculative, far-fetched question, which would really force us to speculate, Catherine, on that. I see the link that you're making, but we could say anything else than speculation, so we will rather not. Stefan.
Yes, Miroslav Lajčák was the special representative for the dialogue between Pristina and Belgrade. So my question is, the revelations about, let's talk about Russian honeypot, prostitutes, etc. And we see a lot of conversation about women between Epstein and Lajčák. So I wonder whether these revelations throw a shadow on his work, or whether we have to go back and see whether he's actually acting under some foreign influence. Thank you.
And on this one, in particular, that would be Anita, because it was as a special envoy, was it? Special representative in the EAS. But let me just see if there are any questions else for Balázs. Yes.
Hello, Eleonora Vasquez from Euronews. So I understand that about these files we don't have a full picture because they publish, here and there. I don't think it's casual. I don't think you think it's casual as well. So in a way, I would like to know whether the Commission has the interest or is asking to have a full picture of the situation, whether it's just for you or for everyone else. Are you engaging on this to have a full picture of the situation? Because maybe we have a vision of one thing and there is a lot of other things that you want to know. Thank you.
And we are, of course, dependent on what is being disclosed. And as you say, it's being gradually disclosed, and we've been gradually informed mainly by the same means as everyone else, which is the press, on what is coming out. And on that basis, we do look if there is indeed, in relation to former members of the college, as was the case with former Commissioner Mendelsohn. We looked into that to see whether there is anything during the time of his exercise as a commissioner that could be linked to this. And so far we have come to no concrete conclusions on that regard, other than that there was nothing to be found in this regard. Yes.
Yes, my question was more about what was not disclosed. So besides engaging on what was disclosed already, are you engaging also to understand what is, of course, still not public, like as an interest for the institution and for the credibility of the EU? Thanks.
I guess we have little influence on what has not yet been disclosed, right? So that's where we are. Other questions? No, we move on. Subject, Nureddin, and then we bring the Foreign Affairs team. Nureddin.
Merci, Paula. I have a couple of questions on Gaza and Iran. I would like to know if, as we speak now, the Rafah mission is deployed and the crossing is opened, and what is the proper task of the European Union experts. More generally on Gaza, the ceasefire is very far from respected. The Israeli occupation forces are pushing further and further the yellow line. The ceasefire, as I said, is not respected. The Israeli forces are also ordering Médecins Sans Frontières to end their mission and leave the country or the area by the end of February, and this is maybe need reaction from the European Union. And on Iran, is there any reaction from your side about what the Iranian authorities announced that they listed the European armies in the terrorist organization of their country? Thank you.
Yes, Anwar.
Thank you, Nordin, for your questions. Indeed, today the Rafah crossing point reopened for passenger traffic in both directions, into and out of Gaza. This follows the deployment of the EU civilian border mission, EUBAM Rafah, to the Rafah crossing point yesterday. EUBAM Rafah is there to facilitate the traffic of passengers and to monitor and support the Palestinian border personnel in carrying out operations at the Rafah crossing point in line with the Gaza Plan, Gaza Peace Plan, endorsed in the UN Security Council Resolution 2803. In other words, this is a concrete and positive added value of the EU to the peace plan in Gaza. This is part of our toolbox, and we have activated it. And basically, this reopening, together with the redeployment of our mission, marks a significant step in implementing the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict. Now, on the other points that you have mentioned, in terms of the situation on the ground and violations of the ceasefire, the EU has been stressing how crucial it is to consolidate the current fragile ceasefire and to avoid having further casualties. With the launch of Phase 2 and in the current ecosystem that we have now, including the redeployment of our EUBAM Rafah civilian mission, it is important to focus on the full implementation of the comprehensive plan in line with the UN Security Council Resolution 2803. I will also react on a point that you have raised in terms of the yellow line, to be crystal clear in terms of our position. The EU recalls the UN Security Council Resolution 2735, rejecting any attempt at demographic or territorial changes in the Gaza Strip, and we will stress the importance of unifying the Gaza Strip with the West Bank under the Palestinian Authority. And furthermore, the Trump peace plan has also been clear that Israel will not occupy or annex the Gaza Strip. Last point that you have, on which you have solicited our views was MSF related, if I'm not mistaken. My colleague Eva is also very welcome to join to add any further element on her side. But in terms of our position, the EU has been consistently calling, and this publicly, but also in our contacts with the Israeli authorities, for immediate unimpeded access and sustained distribution of humanitarian aid at scale into and throughout Gaza, and for the UN and its agencies, together with humanitarian organizations, to be able to work independently and impartially. Let's also here quickly touch on the INGOs issue. The registration process for these INGOs required by Israel is a significant obstacle to humanitarian aid delivery in Gaza. And in light of such, it is crucial that INGOs are able to operate and deliver aid in Gaza without interruption, and especially at this critical juncture. The EU has been expressing its concerns about the INGO registration criteria, and we have been actively engaging with the Israeli government on this issue, including at the level of the High Representative. We will continue to monitor the situation, especially looking into how to facilitate the registration support and to further engage with the Israeli authorities. All in all, the international humanitarian law leaves no doubt. Aid must reach all those in need. And I think that this closes your questions on Gaza. Very quickly, on Iran, since you have also asked us on the latest. 2 points to answer your questions. First, in terms of designations of EU armies, if I understood you correctly, we reject the announcement of the listing of EU armies and the accusation of terrorism altogether. That's one. Then, in terms of the situation on the ground, in terms of summoning of EU ambassadors, I will recall that the Vienna Convention also foresees that as part of diplomatic practices. Nothing further to add on the matter.
Thank you. I also see now, Sam, you mentioned Sam McNeill, also on the Middle East, I understood.
Yes, thank you so much for the time. I was hoping to get more details from Anwar about the size of the UBAM staff. It seems from the photos and images shared by Kaya Kallas and others that it is just a handful of people wearing the blue with gold stars. And I wanted to know more about the EU ambassadors being summoned. Sounds like maybe you can't say much on that. If you can tell us at all who attended those summons, which nations did, and how much diplomatic staff is of member states in Iran today as tensions continue to rise. And one final thing about Iran's labeling of EU armies as terrorist organizations. I asked this on an email over the weekend and didn't hear a reply from your office. What's the reaction officially to that designation, as well as what is the EU doing to ensure that member states are safe in light of this designation? Thank you.
Thanks much for your questions. We actually just did reply to the questions that you asked again, but very happy to hear reiterate. I'll start with Iran, since that was the most heavy part of your questioning. In terms of summoning, I will not here go into details in terms of what member states, when and how. I'm just recalling that this is a diplomatic practice that is part of the Vienna Convention, full stop. Then, in terms of the EU armies, I just replied a few seconds ago, but happy to reiterate here that we reject the announcement of listing of EU armies as such, and the accusation of terrorism altogether. And I think this is quite clear. In terms of diplomatic engagement, obviously, I will not here in the public domain go at length on the issue, but I will reiterate what the High Representative said herself at the last Foreign Affairs Council, that we expect diplomatic channels to remain open after the decision of listing IRGC as part of the EU terror list. And maintaining open channels with Iran must also be part and remain part of our toolbox as part of our engagement when it is required with our counterparts, and the High Rep is in regular contact with all partners in the region, and this on a constant manner. Then you had questions also on Gaza and on EU-BAM Rafah. I will not be here able to give you numbers because I think this is not the time and not the place to do so. We'll be reverting back to you in due time if we judge that this is the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Silvia Yusuf from El País newspaper. It's back to you, Bam, the Rafah opening. It seems to be a very limited opening, which comes also at least 4 months later than agreed. So even if it's a good sign, and you've also High Representative Kaja Kallas has celebrated it, I was wondering, you saying that you're in constant contact with the Israeli government. How are you pressuring to get the Rafah point fully functioning? Are you still where are you with the conversations? Are you still considering the possibility of reaching out instead of with the Israel Association Agreement? Is there any talks about that, to use it as a tool, as a pressuring tool?
Thank you very much. In terms of the situation on the ground, well, you know that the reopening of the Rafah crossing point was in the hands of the parties, and that was also part of the peace plan. And to be very exact, point 8 of the peace plan. Now, what we are, to take your words, celebrating today, but I would say here unpacking in terms of making it very clear to the eyes and ears of everyone here, is the redeployment of a mission that is part of the EU toolbox, which brings stability to the region, to the Gaza Strip, also to help those who are in need of medical treatment, because part of the individuals that are part of the agreement are in need of medical treatment, and this is how the EU is bringing a positive contribution, also in terms of lifeline to those who are in need of such. So I would very much focus on this as we speak today in light of the reopening today. Then, in terms of the measures that you have been mentioning, obviously, diplomacy is made of incentives and disincentives. I will not be here commenting on every single granularity of the former or the latter. But basically, we are obviously following the developments on the ground with great attention in light of the measures that you have been here mentioning, that have been put on the table and announced by the President at the latest State of the Union in September. Any decisions on the measures will reflect the progress achieved toward peace and stabilization, and I think that this is that this speaks out of itself.
Other questions to Anwar? Yes.
Thank you. Kam Mustafa, report, Azerbaijan. I have follow-up on Iran, but I'm not sure I'm getting answer that, but I'll try anyway. It's besides colleagues said, there is also Iranian MPs considering expulsion of European military attaches. So my question is, if you have any plan in place, how you will, and they also promise further retaliation on, after sanctioning Iranians. So do you have any plan in place how you will react, what we are going to do after that? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Looking at the situation, we will not be in a position of commenting drip by drip and drop by drop every single speculation or comment, and in any case we are not in the business of doing that altogether from this podium in the spokesperson service. What we say is that indeed diplomacy is key, and this is also why we keep channels open to also speak with our interlocutors, together with the context that we are also seeing. And that was also part of a question from your colleague that actually I did not address, which I will be doing now, in terms of recalling that a military escalation would risk having heavy consequences on a region that does not need that, that needs, on the contrary, regional stability. This is why diplomacy must be given a chance. The European Union remains strongly committed to peace, stability and security in the Middle East, and we are urging all parties, be they state or non-state actors, to abide by international law, show restraint and refrain from taking action which could lead to a new escalation in the Middle East. And for the last part of your question, we will not be commenting on hypothetical scenarios, because obviously we are looking at how we can stabilize the region. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no further questions to Anwar. Any further topic? And then we will be coming to an end of our midday. Yes, please.
Hi, Camille Condessu from AFP. This might be for Anita. In an interview with AFP on Friday, Commissioner Ribera voiced her shock at the quote, I quote, terrifying images coming out from Minneapolis. She said, I don't want that for my country or my continent. I was just wondering if that's something we should consider as an official position of the Commission, or does that differ from your current position? Thank you.
It's obviously EVP Ribeira has all freedom to express her opinion on how she sees developments across the world. So we would not add or comment anything about this. And we see Stefan, final question. And sorry? Yes, and on night check, and also having looked at Anita, nothing to add compared to what Balázs already said. And in this particular case, Mr. Lajčák was at the service of the Action Service, the European Action Service. When was that? Anita just recalled these details, but then we have nothing further to. From 2020 to 2025. But we noted well that his name is also involved and referred to in the context of these Epstein files. And with this, we come to an end of our midday. Thank you very much and wish you a good afternoon.